48 years ago, I was adopted at birth by Sam and Franny Ann. And they're both deceased now, but I just want to say how much I appreciate them for taking on that responsibility, for going through that process. And I don't know if there's somebody listening to this or watching this that you're going through that process now, or that you've already gone through that process. But I want to commend you because it takes a special person to go through that and to take on that responsibility. And I know it really impacted my life in a positive way. And so I don't know if you recognize the amount of influence and how impactful you will be in this child's life, but you're going to make a huge difference, and I commend you. I was asked a week or so ago about something I had mentioned in a previous video. I had said how my mother was so loving, and she definitely was. And what does that mean to somebody that's adopted, to feel loved? And it reminds me of a movie. I was watching The Equalizer 3 starring Denzel Washington, and he is a retired assassin who's now an Uber driver. And this bricklayer gets in his Uber, and he tells Denzel that $366,400 was stolen from him. And Denzel, being Denzel, travels to Italy to confront this crime organization about the $366,400 they had stolen. And so by the end of the movie, Denzel returns the money, but he goes all out. If you watch the movie, you'll see him go all out. And this organization is a multi-billion-dollar international crime organization, and all Denzel was worried about was the $366,400 that he got back to this guy. And that's how I felt my mother was. She was a person that would go all out for me, and that made me feel safe. And it's not that she bought everything I ever wanted, or that we went on every trip or anything I ever wanted, but she was just very steady, and I felt like she had my back. Whether I made a mistake or not, I felt like she wasn't going anywhere. And that was big for me because I was a kid who was adopted, who felt thrown away. And when you feel thrown away, you want like steadiness. You need that. And she definitely was that for me. And that was love for me, knowing that you weren't going anywhere. Because in the back of my head, I was thrown away. But there's this person here who's not going anywhere. They're there through thick and thin. And I felt like my mother was that for me. And I appreciated that. And like I mentioned, she was like that umbrella over me and protected me from the world. And under that umbrella, there's some things that stunted my growth. And one of the things that I dealt with, and I still deal with to a certain extent, is fear. And one of the fears I learned from my mother, which was this fear of driving on highways, because my mom didn't drive on the highway. Everywhere we went on business route or back roads. And if we had to get on the highway, we were not going, because my mother was not going to drive on the highway. And so when I first got my license and she taught me how to drive, I didn't get on the highway. And then I eventually got over that, and I would get on the highway. Another fear my mother had was flying, and so she had never flown on a plane. And I was nervous about it, and eventually I got over that. And this 2 years ago, I got a chance to go to Israel, and I was on top of a mountain overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and it was stunning. I mean, it was just a great experience, and it's something that I'll never forget. And while I was there and I'm overlooking the Sea of Galilee, I'm just shaking my head and I'm like, how did I get here? Like, how did I get here? And when I think back, I was facing fears. And so I had faced that fear of driving on the highway, and that has taken me places that only a highway can take you. And then I faced that fear of flying on a plane, and that took me to a place and will continue to take me places that I can't get by just walking or driving. And so there was another fear that I had to face, that I wanted to face. I didn't know where I was from originally. And I had been curious about it for years, and I had someone try to help me to figure it out when I was probably in my 20s, but that kind of fell off. And last year, I signed up for 23andMe, and I sent my DNA in. And once I sent my DNA in, I had a match that someone was related to me, and it was a cousin. The cousin's name was Darla, and I looked at it for a few days, and I would go into the app and look, and I said, you know what? Should I reach out to them? Should I not? Should I reach out? Should I not? Like, I battled that in my head. Eventually, I said, okay, I'll reach out. So I wrote, I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but, hey, we made this connection on here. I was adopted 1976 in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And, this is saying that we're related in some way. I don't know if you have any information on that. And I guess it took a few days, and Darla reached back out, and eventually we just went back and forth, and I sent her a picture and Darla said, oh yeah, we're related. We're definitely related. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is really happening. And so we had kept in touch over I guess it was about a year. And I asked her if she could find any information on, my background, maybe who my mother or father might be. And she did some research, but she didn't have a lot of success. But she did do something. She invited me to the family reunion in Chester, PA. And so, but this happened over a period of us kind of communicating for about a year. And so she invited me to this family reunion in Chester, and I saw the invitation in my email, and she was very Darla was welcoming, just come on out, I want to meet you, and I want to give you a hug. And I'm like, okay. I saw the email, and I didn't answer right away because I was nervous. I was pretty nervous about it. And so thought about it, and eventually I responded. I said, hey, I texted her and I said, hey, I saw your email, and I'm coming, and I'll be there. And I want to get the date right, because I want you to realize that this was not long ago. And so the family reunion was this past July 13th. And so it's a couple days before that, I texted her and I let her know that I would be coming. And she's like, cool, when you get here, text me and let me know you're here. And so July 13th, morning of, I'm nervous all morning. This is a big step for me. And all these different scenarios are running through my head. What if I meet them and they're absolutely nuts? What if I meet them and they're like all criminals? And what if I meet them and all they just want something from me? Like all these things are running through my head. Then I eventually get in my truck and I make my way down, and Chester's about an hour from where I live. I don't even think I had on any music. I'm just riding, I'm just driving to Chester. And I'm nervous, scared, emotional. Oh man. Just so many things just running through me. And then I get to Chester and I pull up to the place where the reunion is taking place, and I pull up and I park, and I see people coming in and out of the building, and like, man, I'm probably related to them. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I'm trying to find an excuse to leave, and I'm battling this in myself. And eventually I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. So I text Darla and I say, I'm outside. And then I walk in and I see all these different people. And I text Darla again. I said, I just walked in. And Darla walks up and she gives me this big hug. And it felt great. It did. And she starts introducing me to people. And I spend the day at the family reunion, and it's emotional. Man, it was great. It was. 48 years. It was great. And it's not sad tears. It was great. And so I got to meet a bunch of people that I was related to. I had no idea how I was related to anybody, but I just knew I was related. Meet my Aunt Joyce, who is a gem. She made me feel so comfortable, and just she was so welcoming, and it was fantastic. So then I get home and I exchange numbers with a bunch of different people, and I get home and I'm telling some of my friends about it. And I have a friend named Vanette who says, you know, you can get your original birth certificate. You just have to send away for it. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could get your original birth certificate. And so as soon as I stopped talking with Vanette, I get online, I send for my original birth certificate. And it took a couple weeks, but I eventually got it. And I'm looking at it, and I see my mother's name and my father's name, and I had no idea who these people were. So I send a picture of it to my Aunt Joyce and my cousin Darla, and they had been trying to figure out, you know, who was my mom, who was my dad. They didn't know. They had been asking questions, and it had been a discussion in my biological family for I guess maybe a couple weeks or months. But eventually I found out who my mother and father were, and it led me to find out that I have multiple sisters, and like I mentioned, my brother Buster, who is deceased, and I have another brother, Boo, and it's just amazing how it all came together. But it came together from facing some fears. Now, there was a huge fear that I'd meet these people and they were like just horrible, because you have all these things that run through your mind. But man, they're such good people, really good people, man. I tend to treat people whenever I go out And the first time I met my brother Boo and my sister Jackie, um, I'm trying to like buy a pizza, and my brother's like, "You're the little brother. Stop, chill, like keep your money." And I was like, "Wow, man, that is so cool." And they didn't want anything from me. They didn't. They didn't want anything from me. But that that fear of the unknown can can be paralyzing, man. And so if there's something that you're scared to face, I guess I mean we all have fears, but the fear I had of meeting my biological family stopped me from doing it for years. And you know, I'm glad I faced that fear. I'm glad I faced the fear of flying. I'm glad I faced the fear of driving on the highway. Um, yeah. And now I'm getting to know my siblings, and I'm excited about it. And they seem excited about it too. And yeah, this is part of my journey. And I appreciate you guys listening.